All right. It is the Pivot Strategist with the Education Collective podcast. And I am just coming here because I have something quick that I want to kind of chat about, right? And so I actually just got done with a Microsoft event on reimagining education. And the reason why I wanted to come so quickly is because I mean that the information that I just got from the event, it was really good. It was really good. I know it's taking me a minute to get situated because I'm like, man, I gotta come so quick. But anyway, so my thoughts. That's the reason why I wanted to come so quickly because I actually wanted to give my thoughts, right? I still got the pen in my bun up here because I'm just going to give it to you guys straight. Now, here are some really important here are some really important and I feel like really imaginative, like things that they're starting to add to Microsoft Office that I think is really cool, but it actually got me thinking. And I wanted to kind of share some wonderings with you all. So now Microsoft talked about adding, a few things that would really help educators in the classroom, right? And so they call these learning accelerators. Now, just by thinking about the name, you're like, okay, this is going to be something that's going to truly help in the classroom. So, like, what is all included in those learning accelerators? Well, we got our reading progress coach, our math progress coach, we have the search progress coach, as well as the speaker progress coach. Now, how is Microsoft going to do all of these things? Well, I'm so glad that I asked the question because they're going to do it through AI. Now, I know that the world has really been in a frenzy on the chat GPT, the use of AI to, potentially write your papers. Like AI can just solve all of the world's problems. Well, AI has it has already entered the field of education, but it's really starting to become more apparent as to where I think we are headed in education. And so you may be actually wondering, well, what do all of these like accelerators do for educators or even for students? So when I kind of wanted to do a bigger deep dive into, well, what would the reading coach do as far as like with AI, because this is not like an actual person, right? This is not a person that's giving the feedback, because in a traditional classroom setting, when a student is doing reading progress intervention or any kind of like timed assessment to assess where they are with their reading, well, the teacher is there to have the piece of paper taking notes and making sure that they're picking up on reading behaviors, but then they give the feedback to the student as well as the parent. Well, AI is here to do the same thing. So the reading coach that Microsoft is producing through learning accelerators, it will give students more opportunities to practice reading with exercises from reading coach and in teams, as well as immersive reader. Now, what does that mean? The thing is, kids will be given reading passages, reading stories. And I will say that this is actually not the first time that I have seen this type of AI assistive like technology given for kids to help them. I actually saw this in an assessment tool that I used last school year with some kids. But I feel like, well, now they're offering it as classroom support. I'm like, oh, this actually changes the game. But anyway, they're given, this reading passage or whatever on their computer through Microsoft Office, right? So they're given that while they are reading. The computer, the AI technology is taking video of the reader as well as audio of the reader, and every word that the reader is reading, the AI, technology is counting it as right or wrong. AI is also picking up on behaviors such as, well, between, these two words, student paused 25 seconds. So, that's a reading behavior, right? And so the AI, technology is picking those things up. And then when the student is done reading, then AI gives the feedback to say, hey, this is what you done on your reading. Here is how you can improve, right? Or it will take you to the next thing to improve your reading. Now, with that, I have a few questions, right? And, with this event, it wasn't an event for us to ask like in-depth questions, right? So one of my wonderings is that if you have struggling readers, one of my wonderings is that if you have struggling readers, then how is the feedback given and how is that effective if readers are struggling in reading, so it would be hard for them to understand, as well as would the program be specific to each learner, right? So are they taking a pre-reading test, and then is it putting them on the level that they're in? So they may be in the fourth grade, but they may be reading on a first grade reading level. So there becomes an opportunity to just only give you passages that are on first grade reading level. Like, is it differentiated that way? So that is something that I, had a wondering about, and I'm going to look more into this, and I will definitely give you all a follow-up podcast episode just to kind of see, because they haven't rolled it all the way out. They're going to roll it out, I want to say at the end of this month or by the end of this month, right? And so same thing with the math progress coach. So they give them these problems, and they're taking screen captures and videos of how students are conceptualizing the concepts by working out the problems given the formula or whatever the case may be. And then it's going to give them feedback as to, what they got right, what they got wrong, and then give them additional, feedback. Now, this was given in a it was given with the notion of, well, this can only help teachers in the classroom because teachers need a lot of time to do other things, right? And so we want to give this buy-in to say, well, if we offer this tool and this product, then this will take a lot of time off of the teacher's hand instead of just equipping all classrooms with 3 to 4 teachers. I mean, I guess now you're replacing them with AI technology. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Okay. I've been sounding the alarm for years, but no one wants to listen. so, you know, so anyway, so yeah, so with those reading coaches, AI is going to assist students, right? Now, I do believe that there will be a bit of a learning and behavioral curve, right? Because students have to kind of get used to that. But this would only assume if students are one to one, that means each student has their own computer. They're not sharing. So, and here's the kicker, with COVID, all students really should be one to one, because when COVID first started, they was like sending computers to every student. Now, not every student took care of the computers, so I do understand why some schools and districts are not one to one now. But you have to be one to one, right? Because students, they're going to need their computer to do the reading, to do the math, and then also to receive feedback. And this and they're pushing this as a means of, well, when teachers are, I don't know, conferencing with other students, or when a teacher has a small group in the back, then that means all the other kids should be able to just get on this learning accelerator, and they should be able to just do what they need to do. You only have a few clicks, and the rest AI will do the work for you, right? And so look, it's just taking all the work off of kids and we're putting it on AI, because they even have a search progress coach, right? So what does that mean? Well, let's just say if kids have a question, right? You know how in the classroom, kids are always raising their hand every 5 seconds. That's why I opted to never have a teacher table in my classroom, because what was the point in having a teacher table or even a chair? Because every time I thought to sit down, there goes somebody raising their hand. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me just stand in the middle of the classroom, because obviously I'm going to be doing about 30,000 steps by the end of the school day, right? And so they have this search coach now where it's like, oh, what would you like to search today? Oh, you've been learning this in science, so it will give you suggestions on what you should search. So again, AI is really doing majority of the work. Kids no longer need to think about. And you know how crazy AI is now. You know how sometimes, as an adult with your phone, you're like, you'll think of something, and then 5 seconds later, it's in your phone, as an ad. I'm like, I didn't even say anything, and because we already know the phones are spying on us, right? But they're in our brains now. No, what AI does is AI researches your behaviors, right? They research. Oh my God, it's so hard to explain, but I think that me being in the line of work that I'm in now, I'm like, oh wow, like this is so amazing. But they research your behaviors, they research what you like, and they push things as interest, and so they know eventually you're going to ask for these things. But all of this is really behavioral based research, and I'm actually learning that in my doctoral program that I'm in now. And so anyway, it's taking the work off of the student and the teacher, and they're putting it on AI. Now yes, there will be a learning curve, because I instantly thought, okay, this could work for kids who don't have any behavioral problems. I mean, because if you have a class full of kids who don't like to sit down, then I cannot imagine a world where it's like, hey, get on your computers. It's time for learning accelerators. Like, if we had a hard time getting them to sit down just for simple things, I can't. I don't know. I don't know. And I hope you're watching the visuals, because my face is like, I don't know. And so there's the search tool, right? And so again, I honestly thought about, well, what about kids who are struggling readers and they struggle with their writing? Well, they have they have accessibility measures that you can speak into the computer, and you can tell the computer what you want. But they have that right now with phones and Siri and stuff like that. But it gets a little deeper, with the accessibility tools that this new tool and program that they're rolling out with Microsoft Education, right? And so let's actually talk about the accessibility that they're going to roll out with this program. And so they're going to have voice access. I just talked about that. Immersive reader. They're going to have live captions. And here's the thing about live captions. And I actually love the accessibility measures that they have with this, because also, I personally have a child who has a disability where live captions, really help, right? And I've taught learners where, the voice access comes in handy. I've, seen, kids who have, individualized educational plans that have these specific accessibility measures written into their IEPs, right? And so the live captions, they're going to help support the content that students are seeing, like the reading and the math content, by being able to help with comprehension, recall, and retention of information. So, I mean, I'm like, what can't Microsoft, do, with this new AI, supported technology for students? What can it do? I started to think about those things, because they also have a speaker progress coach, right? And so again, that kind of talks more about, what I was talking about earlier with, taking off the responsibility of kids being able to do certain things, and like we don't have to think or worry about those things anymore. Okay. So anywho, so I started to think Well, if AI is going to be able to offer all of this, if Microsoft is proposing all of these things and they're pushing it out to schools and districts, because again, a lot of the schools are already using Microsoft as, their LMS system, their learning management system. They're already using Microsoft, and Microsoft works hand in hand with Windows 11. That's the updated version of Windows. And so they're offering so much, freedom and simplicity, right, within design, because these like programs and these accelerators can be they can be viewed and they can be like accessed through Google Sign In, Clever. These are things that districts are already using. Now, my wondering was, if it is this great and they were showing like amazing videos of how teachers were already using it in the classroom, what is the point of teachers? I mean, except for observation and behavioral control, what would be the point? Like, yes, it may not offer everything that teachers are able to offer now, but I mean, with them rolling this out and seeing what works and what doesn't work, you best believe they're going to update it. So I'm like, well, then is this the new answer to the teacher shortage that everyone likes to forget about? So, I mean, that's just a wondering. I'm not saying that that's it, but that is something that really popped in my head with seeing all of these like cool features and everything. So I don't know. That's something that I thought about. And you know what the ushering in of this started with blended learning, it's this, okay, well, kids can learn from computers, but they can also, have the traditional, the instructor up here giving a lecture and students are retaining the information. So I think that the start of this was through blended learning, but then once we got to the pandemic, I think we were able to see that, oh, okay, this actually really can be done. Here's the thing with the pandemic. I'm okay, I said we. I mean, like, we as in I, and people like me didn't see COVID coming. Now, there are arguments out there to say that people did know about COVID, but we didn't see it coming, from the education standpoint. And so you did not have time to prepare. So now that it has been, 3 years, it's like, oh, we've had time to develop something. I mean, because to be honest, when COVID first started, it was terrible for education, because it's like, how do we do, like, we were not prepared for this, right? And so that's something to really, leave you all with. And these are like my, initial, thoughts, because, you know, I started to see, while I was in the event, well, is this a new wave of, well, we don't really need teachers anymore? Now, I can totally see there being a model in schools now. Like, I can totally see them buying into this model where there's like double or triple the size of kids in a like big classroom setting. So what, 30 to 50 kids using the learning accelerators and other things, to enhance their learning, and it being that. And then you have a couple of teachers in there versus staffing an entire building to just observe, if there are, technology mishaps. Now, I will go on a limb and argue that the way that technology is entering, the education world, it's a little scary, because technology cannot teach soft skills like empathy, collaboration, these soft, compassion. Like, technology cannot teach that. And so I think that is where educators, are needed. Like, educators are needed in the entire process. But what I can see is the wave of them trying to say, well, we don't really need you. Well, I argue that you actually do, and you need to start acting like you need, educators. But, that's my argument. I would really love to know what you guys think as parents, as teachers, as administrators, as, advocates in the community. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that, the wave of AI and just where we've been able to go with AI and technology, what do y'all think this is leading to? And do you think that this is a good thing or is this a bad thing? I would really love to hear your thoughts because I'm open to, all perspectives because I don't have well, I think it's right or I think it's wrong. So, like, I don't have like a stake in that. I'm looking at it from all options, even from a behavioral standpoint. So I would really love to know your thoughts. This episode was going to be really quick. I had to get that out there. If y'all want to check out more information about the learning accelerators that Microsoft is rolling out, I will make sure that I add the link to where you can find all of this information. And until next time, the Pivot Strategist is out.